Morning, everyone. Hope you're enjoying your day. So I thought I'd hop on today to talk about the moon void, of course. If you're in my Instagram, you may see me from time to time, or most mornings, more like it. Give everyone a reminder that today the moon is void, of course, during this time, and I give a little gentle nudge. Don't buy anything important. Don't make any big plans during this time because the moon is void, of course. Now, we may know by now that the moon in astrology is a huge part of the daily cosmic scene. It rules over our emotions, our feelings, our instincts, and our vulnerabilities, and the ways that we feel safe and nurtured, which is really important now more than ever. So, as the moon moves through each of the 12 zodiac signs during its approximate 28-day cycle, give or take, it takes on the energy of each of those signs, and we basically color our moods with the sign's qualities. So somewhere within your astro dabbles, you may have come across the word void, of course, or you may have only heard about it through my Instagram. And basically for the last year and a half, I have been studying what this means, and I've actually been living it out, and I am absolutely fascinated by it, and I want to use it to my advantage. So here I am wanting to teach as many people as possible about it. So, while we may not be able to define it yet per se, I can guarantee you that you have felt its effects in the past. So, in simple terms, the void of course moon is described as a period of time before the moon moves into a new zodiac sign, which it doesn't form any significant meetups with any of the other planets. So, the moon spends a little more than 2 days and a half, give or take, in each of the 12 zodiac signs as it travels through the zodiac wheel. And once it completes its rotation, the moon moves through the zodiac. It basically forms planetary aspects with the other major planet rather frequently. Now, aspects are actually just angles in astrology that are formed between two or more planets, and these angles represent different types of relationships. So there are hard aspects and then soft aspects. The hard aspects result in challenges and tensions between the planets, and then the soft aspects are a lot more harmonious and easier to navigate through. And I'm a big believer, as above, so below. What is happening in the astrological world is reflected into our earthly realm. Now, because the moon moves so quickly through the signs, it's the fastest moving planet in the astrology. It constantly forming aspects with other planets, which basically ignites its power and subsequently affects our moods, our emotions, our energy levels, and so much more. But once the moon has completed the final aspect to another planet, it's considered void, of course, until it enters the next sign. So it's basically a period of time when the moon is completely on her own, floating through the zodiac without any influence from any of the other planets that are usually there to bounce their energy off her. And that's why when the moon is void, of course, we tend to feel a little lost, somewhat hazy, and scatterbrained ourselves. So this is the part where we say, when the moon says, it's not you, it's me. Now, usually, because of how often the moon forms aspects to planets, the moon doesn't end up void, of course, until it's reached the very last degree of a sign, meaning that the void moon will only last for a few hours or less at a time. But from time to time, the stars align so that we have a whole day under the influence of the void of course moon. And I love it when it's overnight. So it might happen from 10 p.m. till 6 a.m. the next morning. But it's pretty difficult when it's in reverse, when it happens from the day into the night. And this basically makes for a slightly dizzying period that's not necessarily productive or a good time to lean into your imagination. It's an amazing time to make time for solitude and reflect on your own feelings and emotions. If you have our astrological moon void of course calendar, you can actually look it up in advance and basically start planning out your next year as we look forward to 2022. Now, as mentioned, the void of course moon is the moon flying solo for a short period of time. So during this time, the moon lacks support from other planets in astrology that it's usually in contact with, and it basically makes us feel a little bit hazier and less grounded than usual. The plans we make under the moon void are not very likely to materialize, and our decision making skills won't be at their finest either, as we won't have a firm grip on reality and we won't be doing things efficiently. Now, this can be extremely frustrating, as it can feel like we just can't get anywhere while the moon is void. We'll often end up wasting time and energy trying to do something that we'll inevitably have to correct or redo later. According to famous astrologer Pam Chiampi, the void of course moon is defined as nothing will come of this, which speaks to the way it hinders us from getting things done effectively. And I have a story about this that I'll mention in a moment. So the moon doesn't have retrograde periods like some of the major planets, but some astrologers liken the energy of the void of course as like a mini retrograde throughout our days, as it basically slows us down and mixes things up. But just because the void of course moon lacks planetary support, it doesn't mean it's a lost puppy wandering through the space. It's basically roaming the streets without its guardian. You can also think of the void moon as a more liberated sense, like it's free of the influence of all of the other planets. And during the void of course moon, pamper the moon ruled signs side of yourself. So this is where we need to up our self-care, prioritize introspective time alone, and take time out to process what's happening in your life at that particular moment. The void moon can actually be a nice calm respite between planetary dramas that allow you to get in touch with your emotions and use your imagination in a rejuvenating and restful way. So if you want to make the most of the occasional void of course moon and align yourself with its dreamy vibes, here are some things to keep in mind. It's always great to stick to your routine because that is how you function best. Sleep in and self-care. Who doesn't need more sleep and more beauty time, right? Avoid making major decisions and plans. And this one's a really important one. Avoid making major purchases. So don't buy a house during that time. Not that we're doing that often, but don't buy a car during that time. Avoid buying electronics, like major items, like thousands of dollars. I'm not talking about don't go shopping and buy your bread and milk. I'm talking about big things in life. And then the other thing is you can actually take advantage of the cosmic loophole. So this is a great time during the void of course to make plans that you don't want to fulfill or schedule things that you don't want to do. So for example, if you need to have a tough conversation with someone but don't want to deal with aftershocks or repercussions, try to initiate it under the void moon where its effects won't be as long lasting. If there's something you need to do that you're unsure about or don't want to do, now's a good time to schedule it without much effectiveness either. The nature of the void moon can actually be a good thing if you know how to use it to your advantage. So I started following the void of course moon through the software that I have at the start of this year, and I was very religious with it. And the shocking story that I have is on April the 3rd, we went to book our wedding reception. And that was a Saturday, and I had work in the morning. I was at my market store, and Nick was teaching all day. And George from the reception asked us to meet at 4 p.m. And I looked at the moon calendar, and it said 4:15 or 4:09 p.m. I think it was. The moon is void of course. And then I thought, oh no, there's no way I can do that. So I rescheduled the appointment. I said, hey, do you mind meeting us at 3:30 instead? Now, I thought we would genuinely be done within the half hour. But as it turned out, we got there, we started mingling, we were having a chat, then we waited for Nick's uncle to join us because he had his wedding at the same reception, and then it became this big thing. And then I completely forgot that the moon was void of course, but we basically penciled in September the 19th as our date. Then, as you may know, the Sydney lockdown happened, and I was really upset at myself. Now, the following week, so we had penciled in that date, but we didn't pay the deposit on that day. But as it turns out, because he literally put us down for that date in his calendar for the reception, the moon was void of course, therefore it was never gonna happen. And that has just broken my heart all year. I'll be really honest with you. I was really, really fixated on that date, but it was a big lesson for us. So the following week, I chose a day when the moon wasn't void of course, and that's when I paid the deposit. But as it turns out, because we actually penciled in that date, it became a really a disheartening experience for us. So had I, it just makes you really think, had I pushed it earlier, could it have changed the ramifications? You never underestimate how one experience can change the ordeal for everyone around us. And we really were this close to having just our ceremony on September the 19th, despite the lockdown. But due to the current tensions in the state and I guess not being able to have all our family there, it became more of a burden, disheartening experience and a joyful, loving experience. So we decided to change it, and now we have set the date for next year. And mind you, the time that we set the date for next year and the phone call and the time that we penciled it in, it wasn't moon void, of course. So it's definitely going to happen. We've scheduled our wedding day for a new moon day of next year. So we're very excited for that. But I really hope you learned a thing or two. So if you would love to get a copy of our 2022 Moon Void of Course calendar, the link is just below. Let us know, because this is great for anyone who loves to make plans for the year ahead, thinking about occasions you may have, holidays you want to book, anything like that. Business planning, I use it a lot in my business, and I notice a lot more success. So I used to do markets every single Saturday and notice, some days were better than others, and I couldn't find the trend. Like thinking whether it was the first Saturday of the month that was great or the last Saturday, etc. But what I did find was when the moon was not void of course, I had a lot more success in my market stalls. So I hope you learned a thing or two. Let me know if you end up using the Moon Void of Course calendar. I would love to see how you're forward planning with it, and love to you. I hope you learned a thing or two. Mwah!